Both. We are green. You guys good?
Ready?
Yes, sir.
Brenda, you ready?
I am.
Staff good? Going to go ahead and open this city council workshop, March 24th, 2026. Is any member of the public signed up to speak?
No, sir.
Thank you. Let's go ahead to item 2A, Mr. Barrera.
All right, good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Thank you for your time this afternoon. All right, so we're going to circle back to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 110, right? So utilities, water, and wastewater. So we presented this February of 25. So I want to circle back to it more as a refresher workshop, and then with hopes of getting another workshop next month. And at that point, we'll get a red line version of what we've completed, and then we'll follow that with the first and second readings at the council meeting. So hopefully we can get this across the finish line pretty quickly and move on to other things, but we'll go over a couple of updates on this one. So quick overview, Article 1, again in general, just no changes, that's reserved for future use. Article 2 and 3 are the ones that have several changes, and we'll camp out on these today and go over a couple of items on here. The remaining articles, 4, 5, and 6, there aren't any changes on there. So moving on to Article 2, Section 11033, water main extension charges inside the city limits. Again, removing this section as far as any kind of recovery fees or any charges that we may have for water main extensions, and we're going to replace it with all of these expenses are at the developer or on the developer, right? So as long as they adhere to our subdivision specifications, they'll be okay. But again, it's at their expense. And then 11034 to 11053, those are just sections that have rewording, removal of fees. Again, there's several fees that are in there that we want to remove and just refer to the fee schedule. There is one section, 11035, though, that it talks about extensions outside the city limits, whether they have to be annexed or not, or they meet certain exceptions. I'm working with Drew on the policy on that. So there is a resolution in place that adopts a policy for extensions outside the city limits. So we'll be bringing that back to council as well for review.
This is what we just had last meeting or two then about the
I'm sorry?
extending the services out, or that was the same kind of same issue that we dealt with recently.
I'm sorry?
Providing services beyond the city.
Yes, it's beyond the city limits.
Yeah.
Remember, I know what you're talking about.
So, let me see, cover, yeah. All right, so 11054, that's on the licensing and regulation of water wells. So we're going to add clarification to definitions and requirements, mainly on no drilling inside the city limits unless it meets certain exceptions, right? You got that word exceptions in place. If it's impractical for us to extend a utility out, that could be an exception. But nonetheless, we want to make sure that it does not pose a threat to our existing, any well nearby. There are certain requirements, whether it's through headwaters or any ordinance that we may have in place. So we'll make sure all that is covered. And 11057 and 58, that's the use of type 1 reclaimed water. Again, minor changes on this one with proper language and removal of fees. We want to make sure that the responsibilities are understood by both parties. We have a responsibility as a provider, but the end user, they have responsibilities as well. Maintaining their ponds, their irrigation systems, things like that, make sure that they're aware of it. And all that is under Chapter 210, which covers our reused water. All right, so we'll move on to Article 3. This pertains to our water management plan, right? So 11092, it's about the purpose, coordination, and monitoring. So we want to revise and clarify some definitions on there as well. We want to add some new language that enhances the purpose of our water management and long-range water plans. All right, what are the purpose of it? So in this statement here, believe that this covers it. So the water management plan was adopted by City Council. But it outlines best practices and strategies for water supply preservation, usage, efficiencies, enforcement, and sustainability of public health and safety. So the plan is intended to collaborate with efforts of other water service providers and/or users as an approach to water stewardship and compliance with regulatory authorities and local, regional, and state water plans. So us, we fall in Region J as far as the water plan, so make sure all that lines up. All right, so continuing in Article 3, water conservation, it's the leading strategy in our long-range water plan, right? So other cities have adopted similar ordinances and best practices that are mainly geared towards conservation. So there's nothing new in our area. So 11093, we want to cover our year-round water conservation measures. So coordinate with local resources on recommended drought-resistant landscaping. The AgriLife Extension, Riverside Nature Center, we want to get some ideas on what are the best as far as landscaping for our area, mainly that are drought tolerant. Also recommend best practices for low impact irrigation systems and design, and define essential and non-essential areas and add allowed uses during drought stages. So that second bullet point I talked about, I'm working with Drew to make sure that any kind of irrigation systems, we do have that in our plumbing code. A lot of codes now recommend that you have low impact sprinkler heads. You know, I've seen new subdivisions where the spray heads are more of like they're not spraying, they're
Right.
kind of like just rotating. So those use less water. So we want to make sure that any kind of development or any irrigation systems are adhering to those. And then the last bullet point, as far as essential and non-essential, we've talked about that before. So basically, that's your essential areas are your playgrounds, areas that are being used daily, versus your non-essentials, your islands, entrances to subdivisions that are irrigated. Those are more of your non-essential. And then as far as allowing them, you know, we may say, okay, in stage 1, 2, or even 3, you can, you know, use your irrigation system, but under 4 and 5, non-essential, you can't irrigate. So we'll have to work with Drew on that and sort of define that and get that plugged into some documents. Any questions on what I've covered so far? Okay, so 11094, these are year-round prohibited uses of water, pretty much waste of water. And these apply to any stage or any conservation measure that's in place, right? So water running more than 10 feet away from an intended area, right? Wasting water. Failing to make repairs, watering impermeable surfaces. Sometimes these spray heads, or folks don't realize if they irrigate late at night, early morning, it's irrigating, you know, different areas that shouldn't be, you know, sidewalks, streets. You know, our streets don't need any water. Also irrigating with damaged sprinklers. That's not an example of one right there on the right, but I've seen a couple of those before, and so those are the ones we want to get addressed.
Before you leave that page, go ahead and finish. And I have a question.
And so 11095 and 96, those just relate to permits, minor changes in rewording. Those are like for new lawns, new landscaping. You know, folks do apply for a permit to irrigate outside the hours that are allowed. So we get very few of those, but nonetheless, that does exist. Sorry.
So it says prohibited uses of water. So I see this a lot in and around town, not just in my community, but what should I do when I see a lot of water? I mean, obviously, a lot of these are caused by a leak, which should be something that's underway to be fixed. But there's some folks who are not really monitoring their own irrigation system very well, and I can tell that. And I don't feel compelled to stop and share my opinion with them, but
No, it's fine.
what's the best thing to do?
Yeah, so you can call either code compliance or call Public Works, or the main number here, and they'll direct you. But yeah, some folks are able to tell their neighbor. I mean, I've done it. Hey neighbor,
Yeah.
do you realize your runoff is coming into my area, so there's something wrong with your sprinkler head. But
Right.
sometimes we don't have that relationship, which is fine. But yeah, calling the city offices will be
Okay.
fine.
Thank you.
Good question. All right, so here's a good one here. So 11097, the water conservation stages as they're defined right now. So in essence, we do have 6 stages, right? There's the year-round conservation, which it's a stage, and then 1 through 5. So I went back to the previous workshop, and and, and listen to it. So I think we got a good strategy moving forward now. Hopefully we can get this finalized. But I'm recommending eliminating the year-round, which is allowing folks to water any day during certain circumstances. That's almost unheard of in our area to have that in place. If the conditions are favorable, that shouldn't allow folks to get in that habit of watering every day, right? So again, we're trying to move that needle towards water conservation, right? So that's one initiative there. Kent, you have a question?
So, I'm very much in favor of that, but I would kind of like to just move the stages over a notch and have year-round be stage one. I mean, not call it stage one, to be year-round, but just move it over. So the year-round water conservation would be the same as stage one is now. We don't, this way we're not in a stage all the time.
Well, that'll be your baseline. I mean, you're in a stage regardless. Even if we were to keep the year round, that's still a stage.
Well, of course, but it's psychological that now we got a drought stage one. We're always in drought stage one. Well, let's be always at least in year-round conservation, and then stage one is a step up from normal.
Yeah, we're trying to eliminate the whole concept of year round and not call them drought stages. Just because we're in stage one conservation stage doesn't mean that we're in
Yeah,
a
but
drought.
everybody's so used to it, you're not gonna get away with that, I don't think. I think it just would be helpful, just that, so we're not always in the stage one and people are perceiving that we're always, in restrictions. I mean,
Yeah.
we're conserving, but we're not really.
Well, even in that year round, there are some restrictions on there as well.
Well,
The
I
only restriction
understand.
is watering every day.
Right, there's
But-
conservation restrictions, but it seems like if you start throwing out stages, it seems, people already, I think, almost too concerned. I mean, we are in a dry climate, there's no doubt about that. And so we do have to be concerned about conservation.
Okay.
But it seems like it just makes it more severe, perceived by the citizens that, oh, we're in this stage,
Well, I
instead of-
Yes, sir.
And
No,
so anyway, I'm agreeable. I would just like, I just sort of think about just calling it.
Really, we'd have to, if you did year-round conservation, we pretty much stay, we don't go to one. We're not in one now, we're in two.
Right.
So we'd really, if we reworded it that way, we'd have to start at two.
Well, we don't have to. We can move it over. Stage two would now be stage one. Stage three would be now two. Another thing is, it gets us away from being close to what Headwaters is doing in their stages. I mean, it's another way to sort of break our, so right now, they kind of think if we're in stage three, or they're in stage three, we need to be in stage three. Well, they're different, what they're doing. And so, anyway, it's a psychological thing, to say we're always going to be in a stage instead of, well, we have,
If that's the case, I mean, you're losing 2 hours between stage one and stage two, just get rid of stage one.
Yeah.
Start at stage two.
I think
Just-
that's what he
oh,
just said.
yeah, I
But I think
don't think we need to do that.
So I think the message needs to be that there needs to be a conservation
Yes.
in place regardless, right?
Yes.
So I think stage one is a great place to start. I believe the last time we were in an actual year round where folks were watering any day was 2021.
Right.
So
So I agree with you completely. That eliminating the first column is great. I would just like to call stage one now the year round.
Y'all, if
But
you all
you
decide
can't-
you
you
wanna
can't-
do that collectively, we're happy to name it anything you want, but we have other pieces of this that, I mean, I understand what you're saying, sir, not to belabor the point.
All right.
We got stuck on this last time, and it was the name of what the first stage is. If y'all want us to rename it, we will,
Yeah.
but it's not. I
Yeah,
don't
you
know.
just can't name something year round that's not year round.
Well, okay, we don't call it year round, just to say normal conservation.
Stage one.
No,
Okay. Well, we can come up with a name later
Please.
as far as just like Mr. Horn.
I agree completely with the result,
The
I just, the
concept, right.
naming thing is the only
No,
thing I'm
that's,
thinking
that's
of.
understandable. So, we'll come back to that later, as far as,
Okay.
how we name them. There's different ways of doing that, but, as far as there's also another recommendation or consideration is to add a winter conservation period, and that's being December through February, right? So only handheld watering is allowed if needed, but it pretty much prohibits the use of any irrigation systems. You're not gonna get those, you shouldn't have to use any irrigation systems in December, January, and February.
So I have a question about that, because it seems like my lawn service applies the pre-emergent in February. It needs to be watered in. That's so I, like
You-
just a one-time thing. It's not like twice a
No.
week or anything, but one time.
That's
it
a
needs to
good
be watered.
question, because there are variances allowed. And you
Okay.
can apply for a variance, and then
But you have to apply for it, though.
we have to, we get variance applications all the time. And a lot of this, it's gonna come with an educational component. We have to educate the folks on what we're changing. And I think we can accomplish that, as far as get them to understand.
While we're on this, on the winter conservation period, what's the purpose of that? I mean,
It's
people
just,
aren't heavily irrigating at that time anyway, are they?
well, you may have some folks that are still, irrigating. And right now, if we don't have anything to enforce on, now we do. And that's a way to help conserve with water.
So how much do we need that? I mean, if there's so little watering going on, why even have it?
You're implementing conservation measures.
Now, how
And
much?
that's
how
kind of
much-
what the strategy is of what we're trying to accomplish.
So you have a pretty good idea how much irrigation is going on, I suppose. So how much does it really amount to?
Yeah, I don't have those numbers, but again, it's just to implement a conservation measure. And these are just considerations, so.
I have neighbors that water in January and February. I don't understand it.
Well, they get to pay more for their sewer bills,
Exactly.
stormwater bills.
Well, it's for folks too who just, they don't change their schedules.
Correct, they're out of
They just,
town
they set it and they forget it forever.
not intentionally even, because,
And so they're watering when they don't need to, and we don't have a mechanism to go up to them and be like, hey, maybe not necessary in December when it's 14 degrees outside. It conserves that water.
We could have exception in one watering a month or something, so if you're watering in your treatments. Anyway, okay, let's go on, that's fine.
Okay,
I think your comments are good. I do.
any other questions?
I could see what you're saying, David, on that. Just like if somebody overseeds their lawn in the winter because they want
Right.
it to be green, but
Right.
that's few and very far
There,
between I've ever seen in Kerrville. So.
Right. Okay, so moving on to 11098, it's changing a notice of safe operating capacity. So we're going to add here a requirement to post the Water Conservation District's drought information on any city notices, websites, et cetera. So I've been talking with Monica over at Headwaters, and that's kind of what we want to do is if we're in stage 1 or 2 and we're different than Headwaters, we'll go ahead and put on our notices what their stage is, right?
Oh, that's a good
I
idea.
removed the guidance document because I don't want that to be any kind of a binding item on an ordinance. I think we can develop a good relationship with Headwaters and understand each other's conservation plan respectively and work together. So I think that's a good idea moving forward.
Still gonna have the magnets when it's finalized?
Right.
I
We'll
think
get-
that's very helpful,
yeah.
for me even.
What'd you say, Delane?
Magnets, that's basically this chart.
Oh,
I use them, I give them to my neighbors because they need them.
These,
Yeah,
these magnets?
right.
yeah,
There's someone on the
Oh,
front desk
okay.
right now.
yeah, I saw
I think it's a handy tool, once we know for sure what we want it to say, I think it's very handy.
Okay, so we're about to close this out. So again, updating this is just intended to collaborate with efforts from other service providers and utilities. Keep in mind, it is an approach to water stewardship and compliance with other regulatory authorities and any kind of plans, whether local, regional, or a state. And the last one here, it does relate to our 2050 comp plan action item, which is to implement a strong water conservation plan to include additional conservation measures and programs. I think what we're doing is not being aggressive, but we're moving the needle. And we're trying to keep it simple. I know that Mr. Harris had mentioned, you know, the acronym KISS, right? Keep it simple, silly. So I took
Cleaned
that
it
from the
up,
last
David.
workshop. So, well, I did my homework, so I want to make sure we got a good ordinance in place. So, and with that, I'll take any additional questions.
I just want to make a comment. When I first got on city council, we had a long-term water plan. And I don't know, for some reason, what comes to mind is that, you know, we were in good shape with water, you know, with our ASR wells and our reclamation ponds and all of that, and that we were really kind of leading the state in our conservation efforts. But I wonder if anything has changed with a 5-year drought. Because what I'm looking at is Medina Lake being
Oh, yeah.
virtually empty. I'm looking at Canyon Lake being down by 65%. And I know that all of this is in an effort to educate and to conserve, but I'm not sure we're doing enough.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot more we can do, but we can take baby steps. And again, at least we're making progress. We do sit in a very unique situation compared to other cities. Right, it is scary in other cities around us, but you know, we've done a lot of work before. You know, the folks who have been here before me, the Stuart Barons, you know,
Right.
that have done a lot of stuff
Right.
with
But how
planning.
good a shape are we really in with a 5-year drought behind us and more drought coming?
I'd like to say that we're in good shape.
Like to say it, or you will say it?
I would say.
Because we visited that water plan recently, if I remember correctly, and we're going to have at least one item on tonight's agenda about that water, implementing an idea from that water plan. Having a conservation plan is not only good policy, but it's required, is it not?
That's correct. We do have a water conservation plan.
It's required, though, by the state or by Headwaters or by
Yes, by
both, or-
TCEQ. It's updated every 5 years.
Thank you. Anybody have a question for Mr. Barrera? Comments?
I'm ready to take bigger steps, but good for the baby steps that we have now.
Right.
This is a good idea.
Right. And as I mentioned earlier, the plan is I want to keep that momentum going on this item here. So next month we'll propose to get on another workshop, and then, like I said, we'll continue on with those first and second readings if we can all, you know.
So that'll be a red line version next time?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I've been working closely with William, so he's doing a great job in helping us get some things accomplished. So appreciate his work on that and his collaboration, as well as finance. So thank y'all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we have nothing else on this agenda, and there's no need to go into executive session. So at 4:53, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting.